All right, I think we are live. Gonna check the audio on my phone. Just bear with me for a minute. Hopefully the fan isn't picking up too bad. So it's saying that I'm not live on my phone here. I should be able to see all the comments popping up and stuff. I mean, I know I started this late, or early, not late. Started early, so maybe it's that'd be crazy. We're not letting you go live right now. You promised you were going live later. So I'm going live on Grief World. What is happening here? Okay.
Not late. Started early. So
All right, cool. So I'm going to use my phone to read the chat and check the chat. And then I could use this, but it's so small here on the computer. And the way that I have this desk built, I have to push the computer all the way back. So it's a little hard to see. But yeah, welcome to the stream, guys. Today we're going to be just chilling, hanging out. This is a series I wanted to start doing on my other channel, which was called Wrestle Rover. I changed it to WrestleChill because I found out, hey, I can use that name. So I thought WrestleChill sounded a bit better. So I wanted to do this type of stuff on that channel, but unfortunately, that channel, there's like new rules with YouTube, which I knew the old, like, you can only record a 15-minute video thing. That's been a thing for a while, but apparently you can't go live when you first join YouTube. And it's a big mess. So I think the plan is to start making videos on that channel and making the short videos, 15-minute videos, getting over either 50 or 100 subs to get live and to get to where you don't have to have 15-minute videos anymore. And then I'll just start archiving this stuff and putting on that channel. So if you guys are seeing this down the road, hi, this is before WrestleChill really took off or really had any, videos on it. So yeah, I'll just archive this stuff down the road. But anyways, y'all, we're going to be chilling today and relaxing, talking about some wrestling. I have no clue if anybody will pop up in the chat here tonight because this channel hasn't been very active lately. It's been a lot of weird creative shifts going on, and I haven't went live in a while, so we'll see. I just wanted to get on here and sort of vent for a little while because I haven't really done that in a minute, and especially talking about AEW because to me AEW and WWE, there's a lot of times where I'm having discussions with some of my friends and stuff about it, and I never really had the opportunity to get on here and talk about it. Hey, we already got somebody in the chat. We got Colton the guy. What's up, man? Just going solo today on the stream and hanging out, doing a solo one. Gonna be sort of free for all in it and just seeing if we how long we go with this stream, and I'll talk about a little bit about WWE, a little bit about AEW, because after the All Out pay-per-view last night, the wrestling world has been upside down on its head, and a lot of people are pissed at AEW. A lot of the fans of AEW are pissed at it, and a lot of people that are just wrestling fans in general are really pissed off at AEW. And so I wanted to get on here and talk about it. No, I didn't see any of them. I know a little bit of the card. It didn't interest me. I don't watch those AEW pay-per-views anymore because they use the same people over and over again. Like WWE does that sometimes where I'm like, oh, come on, we've got to use this person again. But like, I swear to you, go back and look at the last 10 pay-per-view cards for AEW, and you will find the same people: Jericho, the Young Bucks, Moxley, Jack Perry, like the same people, Orange Cassidy. And what's weird is like Orange Cassidy doesn't have any storylines going on right now that I'm aware of that actually make noise and people know about. So it's weird to me that he makes these pay-per-views even though he's not even really doing anything right now. Personally, I think Orange Cassidy is Tony Khan's like favorite wrestler or something on his roster. It's his personal favorite. And so I think he just out of feeling that way about Orange Cassidy, he just puts him on the card, you know. But yeah, I just think, and the thing is too, I won't always be talking about, AEW and stuff because, a lot of people cover AEW. There's a lot of channels out there that their main like focus is burying AEW. And I don't want to sit here and be like a broken clock and just keep on doing the same thing. Like, I don't want to keep on repeating myself about AEW. However, I haven't really talked about AEW too much on this channel. And that's the thing, is like, I haven't been able to really cover AEW and talk about, the problems or things that I think they could fix. And I haven't really discussed that. I think me and Colt's done a few streams where we've touched upon it, but this won't be just AEW either. It'll be WWE. We're just spitballing here. It's going to be a free-for-all. We're going to see who shows up in the chat. And I just had a lot of thoughts going in my head recently about wrestling and where I think it's going. And do I like where it's going? Do I think it's the best route for wrestling? And we'll get into all that fun stuff, here in a little while. And we'll definitely discuss, whether or not I think wrestling is in the zone for the better or for the worse. So we'll get into all that. They all have problems, but AEW has more problems than WWE right now. I agree with that. AEW is a sad situation because when it started, it was made to be a brand that people had a second chance at. And you go back and look at the early days of AEW, it was meant to be a place where, these guys who were wasted by WWE, and don't get me wrong, guys, I was not a fan of WWE 4 years ago. Like, I thought WWE was the worst wrestling product you could watch. And it was, to me, in my opinion, because they continuously wasted opportunities and they wasted building young talent. And we're seeing right now the results of good writing, taking your time with the booking, building characters, building storylines. You're seeing that take off now, whereas 4 or 5 years ago, Damian Priest was nowhere near as over as he is now. Same with Rhea. Same with, a few other people on that Raw and the Judgment Day, and just all this great young talent and people coming up from NXT, and you just didn't get that with Vince. With Vince, it was very much a product of, him receiving this talent from NXT and not knowing what to do with them at all. And so, but fix the tag team division. Yeah, the tag team division is definitely the worst it's been in a long time. And what's weird about Vince is he did get the tag team divisions nailed. Like every decade I can think of had at least a halfway decent tag team division. Whether it was the 80s, the 90s, the 70s, the 2000s. Now, the 2000s, things started falling off because we had a split brand. So it was kind of like, oh, we'll just put the tag team belts on anyone. But what's cool about the tag team belts back in the 2000s, if you notice, a lot of young talent would start off with the tag team titles. And I mean, a lot of people. You go back in the 2000s, you'll be shocked at some of the people who were holding championships. And so I think it was a good thing that he did that. I think it was a good thing that in the 2000s, they sort of used the world tag team belts and the tag team belts on Raw and everything to get people over a bit more and be a good boost in their careers to start out with. But today, I think with where WWE is at, I guess we can start off with my thoughts on where I think WWE is. Do I think that they're in the best spot? Do I think they have a good future? And I do think they have a good future. I think WWE is in a great spot right now. They've improved massively. There was times in the past where I was extremely worried about WWE because I never wanted to hate WWE. I never wanted to hate AEW. I never want to go into a show and be negative on the show unless I have to be, unless I see something that I'm like, these people aren't even trying. And I could see that with like 2016 to 2021. Like to me, I call those the dark ages. A lot of people say that's the new era. But I'm like, no, that's the dark ages for me. That's the era of wrestling, of WWE per se, that I'm just like, I could go without it because it was a time period where the audience was not being listened to. No one cared about the audience. They were just making money and bringing in Brock Lesnar to beat people up and bringing in Goldberg and bringing in all these other people like and wasting Bray Wyatt and wasting Keith Lee and wasting Karrion Kross and in a way wasting Finn Balor. And I mean that goes on and on of just talent they would continuously drop the ball with. Even at some point, Seth Rollins was being sort of left in the dust. And it was just shocking to me that there's this crop of young talent from NXT that's immensely talented and gifted, and they would constantly drop the ball with it. So at that time, I was very supportive of AEW. I was like, oh shit, they got CM Punk. That's awesome. Oh shit, they got Jericho. That's great. Because it gave us a product where it's like, there's no more scripts. There's no more corporation watching down on this company. And it didn't feel as commercial. It didn't feel like it was playing as safe. It didn't feel like a product that was very safe. It felt like, oh shit, they're doing something in the vein of like maybe ECW and WCW. Like they're going to try and take some chances here. And at that time, WWE did not take any chances. They were just kept on bringing in all reliables. Do you think they should have slipped the belts or kept one belts? Oh, you mean split them? I was fine with the splits of the belts. It's a weird thing because with the brand split, it's a great thing when we look back on it, but it also causes some problems because there's always going to be that year. Oh no, you're fine, Cole. There's always going to be that weird year where we're going to have Raw having this amazing tag team division and SmackDown kind of having, or vice versa. Raw would have a weak one and SmackDown would have a weak one. We're seeing that right now where technically, yes, both of the tag team divisions suck right now. But if you look at it, Raw has an amazing tag team division. They just don't use them. And that's WWE's big problem right now with their main roster. And I do really enjoy the main roster stuff. My favorite is probably NXT, personally, because I'm a big fan of characters. I'm a big fan of storylines. I'm a big fan of getting to know characters. I'm a big fan of wrestling being a show. And I think the main roster strays away from that a bit, where there's so much going on. There's so many ads. There's so much chaos that you don't get to have moments like you do in NXT where you get to know these characters. And, the main card stuff they nail, but the mid card stuff and the tag team stuff they kind of struggle with. But with where the main roster is right now, even though I do really enjoy the main roster, I think it's got problems. And the scary thing is they've got long-term problems that if they don't fix now will create even more problems down the road. And one of the big ones I want to nail is long-term booking. And, wrestling for a while always did have long-term booking. Wrestling wasn't this thing where it was always week-to-week booking. That didn't happen until like later where Vince was like, we're not even going to worry about next month. We're just going to worry about right now. And I prefer long-term booking, but you have to use it right. You have to utilize long-term booking the correct way, or you're going to get a bunch of people getting bored and, people thinking it's stale, and even me, there's stuff going on right now. Like, I like the Bloodline storyline, but it is starting to slow down. I like the Cody Rhodes run, but I'm noticing they're struggling to keep it exciting, As I did love the Kevin Owens match. I had problems with it, but I did really enjoy that match. The AJ match was good. I've heard good things about the other ones, but as far as the stories go, I think they're struggling to give Cody those stories right now that people are going to remember. And the big one was Roman. So how do you follow that up? You do with AJ, and they did a pretty decent job. Then after AJ, it floundered a bit, and people are starting to turn on Cody, and it's sad. It really is sad, because I've noticed if you're a babyface in WWE, you're going to have a hard time keeping popular. You're going to have a hard time keeping that momentum, because the fans are very fickle. They're very strict on baby faces. And it's weird to me that it's like when you watch WWE and Cody Rhodes comes out, he gets this amazing pop, this amazing reaction. He comes out and the entire audience is on their feet, and everybody in the arena is just really excited to see Cody Rhodes. Then when you go and look online, there's a big chunk of the fan base that is just like, saying he's boring, he's bland, he's not exciting, the stories aren't exciting. And I disagree with most of that, because I think he does try his best, but I do think it's just, we got to look at where we're at right now with WWE. WWE is a roller coaster all year. I mean, WWE will never have a year where it's constantly upwards. Like, it's a roller coaster. Like, WWE has those down points between WrestleMania and other pay-per-views, or, we're waiting until Survivor Series right now, so we got to fill that in with a couple pay-per-views. So there is downtime. But I think you still got to be able to create some kind of interesting storylines for your main events. And even though they are doing it, they're relying a lot on that long-term storytelling, which is, to me, very risky, because you have a lot of people right now that are already getting tired of these storylines. And I'll admit, like, there's times where I'm watching, I'm like, man, we're doing this again. Like, we're doing another rematch. Like, it's like, isn't this done? And if you're going to have long-term storylines, you better do some good long-term booking. And to me, they struggle with that sometimes, where they'll do a long-term storyline and it won't be much of a story, or they'll have a hard time booking it, or it's just hard to do that long-term storytelling. It really is. And most of the rivalries right now in WWE are long-term, and it's very difficult to do. So I think that needs to be tweaked. I think the tag team division, to me, right now sucks. It sucks. Like, it's pretty bad that DIY winning that belt or winning those championships barely did anything with them and had them for like a small amount of time. And like, I don't even remember a thing they did with it. A-Town Down had those belts on SmackDown forever, and I can't remember a single thing. Judgment Day has the Raw tag team titles, and they've defended them not once so far. And they've had them for like 60-something days. And to me, it's a little ridiculous, and maybe what it is there's just too much talent on Raw and SmackDown. But then again, I also think about it in the back of my head, and I'm like, I don't know if that's the problem, because you do see a lot of WWE rely on the same people, especially on Raw. You have Jey Uso going to be used. You got Damian Priest going to be used. And these are great talents, but I can tell sometimes, I'm like, man, you had this person over here you could have used and done something with. Like, give Dragunov a storyline. Why would you have Braun Breaker win that IC title and the first thing he does is a tournament? It's a bad call for me, because you got to get Braun Breaker over. You got to get him over before you do tournaments. You do tournaments right now, no one will care. And that's why no one's talking about it, because to do a tournament, a round-up champion, unless it's a vacant championship, then the gimmick of the tournament could be oh, the drawing factor rather could be, oh shit, the title's vacant right now. We do a tournament, we can get this title over. It'll have a big hype thing going to it. We can get it built up for a few weeks, about a month, and crown a new champion. So that's usually the drama with tournaments is it's a vacant championship or it's an opportunity at a championship. And I think with this one, the tournament, you get Braun Breaker in there who you haven't really you've had him go out and destroy people on Raw, but you haven't had a moment to know the character or really get to know who this person is. Like you haven't given Braun Breaker the time to shine per se. So I definitely think that they could work on that, and there's a bad call. So I think the mid card, to get into that, the mid card is struggling, and you need a strong mid card. To me, yes, the tag team division sucking is a problem, but you need a good mid card. Mid card is what keeps people hooked into your show. You can argue all day that, oh, it's about main event talent. It is. But main event and mid card have always worked together to create good Raws and SmackDowns. You go back to any decade, it always relies on mid card to build the main event. It's how it is. You can't just have the main event be everything. Like you need to give people like Carmelo Hayes and Andrade and Santos Escobar and his tag team, and I know they just brung back the LWO. That's cool. They finally brung them back. But you got to give, up and coming talent. You got Ashante the Adonis there on the main roster, and you didn't use him at all. You had Dijak, and you didn't use him at all. You got guys on that roster who you didn't use that you could have gotten really over on the mid card. And a perfect example of that is Bronson Reed. Look at Bronson Reed. A year ago, people didn't really care about Bronson Reed. He was kind of there. Now everybody's talking about Bronson Reed because you took the time, you made a storyline, you got him over. So it can be done. I'm getting blown up here on the phone. But people like, it is over. The WWE is great. That's good, but we're just getting into some debate about it. But Bronson Reed is a good example of it. He got over. They did a good storyline. They got him to where he needed to be, and now Bronson Reed is in a good place, and he's in the mid card, but he's high mid card, so that's good. But I definitely think the mid card division that needs to be fixed. Severely needs to be fixed because there are things happening. It just feels like random wrestling matches sometimes. Especially now that instead of, giving Dragunov and Braun Breaker a storyline, you give everybody a tournament for a character that we don't know much about. To me, it was pointless. You could have done a storyline. To me, storylines will always get your stuff over. And I know some people are like, well, what else would you want them to do? It's like, be creative. These guys get paid to be creative, How about you get somebody whose job it is to focus on the mid card on both brands? Because I don't know if they do it to where they all tackle it or if Triple H is just in charge of everything. I'm not totally 100% sure about that. Sorry about that. A little cameo from my brother there. Didn't know he was coming in the room. I tried to turn the camera off. We're live, pal. But it's all good, bro. Guy that threw me way off. What was I saying? Oh, the mid card, I think I was talking about the mid card. But yeah, I think with the mid card, it's very important to get that fixed. Very important. Extremely important. And apparently somebody is texting me because it is extremely important. Sorry about that. I swear to you, I will not go live for like 2 months and everything is chill. But then I go live and everything goes crazy. But it was just some people hitting me up though. So I think that's also a big thing they need to fix. Another thing I would really hope that they would focus on is the women's division. The women's division, while it's okay, it's decent right now. there's definitely things that they could fix, making more interesting storylines. Basically, the same thing I said about the mid card: better storylines, better characters, giving the women more time to work, and really letting them do some more stuff. Because if it ain't Liv Morgan and Rhea Ripley, I can't even tell you what's happening right now. You know, it's the women's tag team division is floundering. It's just that stuff needs to be fixed. But the good things about WWE is that I've noticed Raw and SmackDown are no longer chores to get through. Like, they're not boring per se. There's just moments where it gets repetitive. It gets repetitive and it gets a little bit stale at times because you're seeing the same old people on Raw and SmackDown. And like, it's kind of an illusion because it makes you think, oh, is the roster small right now? It's like, no, the roster is huge. They just don't use anybody else other than their main people. And so you get a lot of people just sort of popping up out of nowhere finally and getting used and then disappearing again. So I will say it ain't as boring as it used to be. I do think there's a bright future there. We're moving to Survivor Series season, so I do think things will definitely get better as time moves on with WWE. There's not really any other major problems I have. I seen Bash in Berlin, thought it was a really good show. Seen SummerSlam, did a review on that. Thought it was a pretty good show. I did notice that the match cards are a bit more smaller than usual. Like, a lot of the match cards on the pay-per-views are like 4 matches or maybe 5 matches. And, you know, I've definitely noticed that it could be like a 7-match card, but that's just me. To get into the real thing, I came here, though, because WWE, I have problems, but not a whole lot. It's a good show. AEW. It's crazy to me that I'm over here scrolling through Instagram and I am seeing just all these people flipping out about AEW, totally upset, calling it gore wrestling, you know, generic violent crap wrestling, garbage wrestling. I mean, it's insane how much people are hating on AEW right now. And I don't know. I think it is kind of justified because if you've noticed, AEW hasn't been doing themselves any favors. Like, they continuously keep on messing up big time. And it just seems like when one problem isn't enough, they just keep on adding to it. And they're doing it to themselves, man. They have the potential, they have the roster, they have the talent to really do something special there. But they just continuously mess it up. And I don't watch AEW. I really don't. So I can't get on here and be like, oh, the last few episodes of Dynamite were trash and, you know, Rampage. I can't get on here and say that. I can't talk about AEW too much because I don't watch it. So, and I don't really want to watch it. As a matter of fact, I blocked them on a lot of social media around the time that they ignored all of the allegations to Chris Jericho. Because I was like, you got all these people talking about Chris Jericho and like they totally ignored it and were lying to the fan. They do a lot of lying. Tony Khan does a lot of lying. And then to me, they try to sit there and say they represent wrestling. They represent the fans. They represent what people want. And I highly doubt that, because if you're going to sit there and say that you're making wrestling for the pro wrestling fans, then why do you continuously ignore them? Why do you continuously try to just book what you want? Why do you lie to people? And so I think that those problems are the ones that really, because I'm not a fan of their style, their indie style. They're trying to make it mainstream. They steal from New Japan. They stole from ECW. They're still in matches from WWE. Go back and watch some of their matches. They've actually like copied matches from WWE. Hell, they just copied the finish of Hell in a Cell 2019, where the Fiend and Seth Rollins in the match, and it got ended because the ref said that it was going too far, and they ended it. They threw in the towel. AEW just did that in a cage match. And there are other examples of them ripping off WCW, whether it be the look of Collision with WCW Nitro, or ripping off ECW, or taking talent away from other companies to use them in theirs to make them look better. And to me, that is not good for professional wrestling. A lot of people say, well, AEW is great for pro wrestling. And I used to say that. And I think in some ways, debatably, they could be. But in most ways, I would disagree with that statement, because if you look back on it, TNA almost died. And AEW was just taking people away from them, using TNA as a stepping stone, and really disrespecting TNA. And that's why TNA don't do business with them anymore. Now you got NXT using TNA, and they're doing great with it. You got them using Ring of Honor's name now because they own Ring of Honor. So now people from Ring of Honor pop up and they use Ring of Honor trying to get their guys over. They use New Japan Wrestling. They use GCW. They use all these wrestling companies to try and boost themselves rather than trying to make their own product. And AEW has a major identity crisis right now. They don't know what they want to be. They don't know what they want to accomplish. They are a company that thinks if they do death matches and set people on fire and set their houses on fire and have all these crazy, bloody, hardcore matches, that they will beat WWE, and that's just not going to happen. It's a different time. People will not watch that kind of wrestling right now. They won't. They'll tune out. I think today's age, people are looking for the basics. And that to me is what pro wrestling has always been anyways. Like the hardcore shit got popular for like 5 years. Like 5 good years. But then you had that time after where hardcore got popular where I hated it. Where every promotion was doing hardcore stuff. Every one of them. And it became like this thing of, well, we're going to push the limits even further and we're going to have even more craziness. And it got to where it was ridiculous, and it got to the point where I was like, this is not even wrestling anymore. This is just I don't know. I don't even know what it is. People harming themselves. And you're going to watch it and get entertainment. Like, no, man, like I don't hate hardcore death matches, but there's times where I'm like, if there's no storyline involved, there's no characters being developed, like, what's the point of watching it? Just to see people get light tubes shoved in their head and get scissors pushed through their face. Like, I don't understand. I just don't understand it, you know? But I think with AEW, the violence is not going to do them any favors, but also they are struggling to connect with the audience. Because those AEW diehards are still there. They're always going to be there. They're never going to lose their diehard fans. But they have lost a good chunk of their audience. And that's because they don't give people what they want to see. They don't care about. Tony doesn't care about that. Tony does not care about what people want to see. He wants to make the show that he wants to make and keep his friends happy and book indie cards and stuff like that. Like, he doesn't want to leave it to the fans. And to me, it's a pretty big mistake to do something like that because, you know, you have to grow your company. You got to really establish an identity for your company, because with WWE, we know their layout. We know the big matches. They have a brand. AEW doesn't have that. It's complete chaos over there. And like I said, I'm totally not surprised that AEW is, you know, really struggling right now with the viewership, the numbers. It doesn't surprise me, man. It really doesn't. And it's a shame to me. It's a damn shame that AEW can't get its footing right and do things the right way. Because I feel like you got the right people in there. It could be an alternative brand. It could be. It would just depend on who you get in there. And right now, they are trying so desperately to get guys like Okada in there and the Young Bucks and Jack Perry, and nobody is paying money to see them except for a measly 5,000 people. which is measly. You are not filling arenas with these people. Your buy rates are not that good. Your ratings are tanking. And you continuously use these same people who go on Twitter and insult the fans and get bad, bad reputations. I'm trying to think of the word here. Bad publicity. They get very bad publicity for AEW. And, guys like Jericho, the Young Bucks, Jack Perry, Britt Baker, Mercedes Moné, all these people that cause all these problems, man, and all these people that just don't draw money. They just are not hits. They are not doing it. And Tony's just giving millions of dollars away like it's nothing to all these people that don't draw money. And no matter what Darby Allin does, Darby Allin continuously is kicked down the card and not used and just beat up and jobbed out. Like no matter what he does, and you have these guys there that are actually doing their best, doing great work, doing the best they can with what they have. But they just don't get used because they're not buddy with the booker. They're not Tony's best friends, and it's just continuously wasted potential. The MJF stuff, I couldn't care less about. All of the Young Buck shit. Can someone tell me like one distinct moment where the Young Bucks deserved to be the main event or to be the main card? Other than like they own half of the company, whatever the fuck the deal is. They started it, whatever. That's like literally the only reason why. The Young Bucks are completely useless. Their matches, bro. Their matches are no selling spot fest. I'm getting tired of, and I'm sick of that shit too in AEW where no one feels pain. Forearms and elbows, no one feels that. You got these matches, people are getting hit with forklifts and people are getting body slinging on the bricks or cinder blocks. And like, okay, so this won't keep somebody down. Hitting somebody with the brick won't keep them down, but a regular old finisher move will. There's no logic to it. There's no meaning. There's no purpose. There's no reason to it. And to me, wrestling always has to have a reason. And if it doesn't have a reason, why should I care? And that's a thing that I think both companies are kind of struggling with right now. WWE does it a whole hell of a lot better, but you have to get the audience to love the characters, to care about the characters, to care about the stories. And if you're not doing that, then what are you doing? Just wasting time. And there is times where WWE does struggle with that, where it's like, okay, you have Carmelo Hayes there, but what reason are you giving people to like Carmelo Hayes right now? Or Andrade, or some of the other people in the mid card? What reason are you giving them to like Dragunov as a character? And I'm not just meaning like, oh, well, he's a good wrestler. It's like, yeah, he's a good wrestler, but as the character, what are you doing to get him over? It's like, that's when you got to start asking the questions. AEW, that's the whole fucking roster. It's like, what are you doing to get these people over? And they've reached the point of desperation where they are setting people on fire, burning down houses. I seen an image where it's like Swerve Strickland now, getting a fucking needle shot in his gums, poked through his jaw, and that was part of the show. We got Daniel Bryan getting a plastic bag put over his head and getting suffocated on AEW. It's just, yeah, it's just embarrassing, man. It's embarrassing. It's not what wrestling should be, in my opinion. I know some people are like, well, the hardcore stuff has its fans too. It's like, yes, but what WWE does to grow its audience, they get a product that everyone would like to see. You got a little bit of the edge factor. You got a little bit of the family stuff. You got a little bit of the sports stuff. Like, give the people a little bit of everything. AEW is just grasping at straws right now. They want so desperately to get that TV deal, to get the HBO Max deal. And I mean, at this point, I don't know if they're going to get it, man, because there's so much bad publicity on AEW, from all the backstage stuff to all the injuries to how unsafe it is to how they lie to people, they deceive people. The wrestling is reckless and unprofessional. The rosters are just not being used to the full capacity. They use the same old people over and over and over again. They have over 100-person roster, but yet good luck finding a show Jericho ain't on, or the Young Bucks, or Jack Perry. I'm like, why are you continuously pushing these people? Oh, yeah, that's right. They're your best friends, Tony. That's why you keep pushing them. But yeah, with AEW, that's my main thoughts on it. It's just, I had to get on here and vent that because I've been talking about with friends and everything. And I'm like, man, I definitely want to do like a current state of the wrestling business discussion, talk about where everything's going and talk about, like, especially with AEW, now that they have all this negativity surrounding them, and people are going to be like, well, why are people hating on it? Why are people continuously hating on it? I'm not sure why. It's like, well, that's why. If you're wondering, that's why. We got here a comment. Mr. Farty Salad. AEW sounds like chaos with no control, like WCW was near the end. Absolutely. Absolutely. You go and you watch WCW in its last years, you go watch it's insane how similar it is. Where things don't make sense. People aren't being used. People aren't being pushed. Belts are pointless. Feuds are pointless. Everything is fucking pointless. There's no drama. There's no suspense. There's nothing. It is just a ball of hardcore garbage wrestling. That's all it is. And there's nothing that they can do to. So the only way they can fix it is by, like, cleaning out the entire locker room and the office. Like, getting guys out of there that don't need to be there and getting a whole new office staff and all that stuff. But that's way too much work, and they're not going to do it, and it's not going to happen. So I think what we're going to get is, like, AEW on Tubi or something. You want to go watch AEW? Go watch it on Pluto TV or Tubi or Freebie or YouTube. It's like, how sad that'll be if they end up being, oh, we're on YouTube now, Dynamite. Our pay-per-views are on Tubi. If you want to go watch our pay-per-views, go watch them on Tubi. So that'll be pretty fucking crazy if that happens. I'll be like, wow, I guess things did go downhill. Jesus Christ. And I don't even want to, like, roast them too much for being on YouTube, because there's a lot of wrestling promotions on YouTube. It's actually a great platform for wrestling, but with where AEW came from, man, it definitely could have. It's going to be sad if that happens. You have Big Show. Where is Big Show? Is a versatile performer that can do many things and elevate your young talent. Hell, they bought the rights to Captain Insano. Why aren't you using them? Yeah. I don't know. I didn't even know they bought the rights to Captain Insano. That's crazy. So what, Adam Sandler can't? So what is it, like, anytime they make a new version of the Waterboy, they have to pay AEW for Captain Insano being mentioned? That's fucking crazy. I don't know. I think the Big Show, though, is in real rough shape. I think the Big Show would be good as a coach. He'd be good as a commentary guy. But if you just watch him walking to the ring, I'm worried about him. Like, I'm worried about him getting injured just walking to the ring, because he looks like he's in pain. He looks like he's just barely hanging on. So, and I mean no disrespect by that. I'm just saying how I see it. Like, I worry about Big Show. I really do. And they're probably not going to use him. He's most likely going to get the Mark Henry treatment, where, disappear for a while, then let him go, I don't know why they spend that money they do. They spend money foolishly, and I guess because the dude's a billionaire, so he can just throw away money like it's nothing. But you could be spending money on marketing and all this other stuff, but instead you spend money on stupid stuff like music and getting wrestlers that nobody really cares about. Like, the thing is, When they signed Okada, I didn't even know who Okada was. I knew about his name a little bit. Like I knew, like I heard, Okada over in New Japan, but I didn't know who he was. And he came in, and it's like Excalibur. Oh my God, Excalibur is a whole other discussion about their fucking commentary team. But Excalibur is like yelling these facts at me as I'm watching it. Like, oh, he did this, he did that, he was in New Japan, he did that, he had this match. You should like Okada. And I'm like, I don't even know who this is. He's the Rainmaker. Okay. He says bitch a lot. All right. I'm supposed to care about this guy. He botches. His finisher is weak. And he looks like a typical type of wrestler. I don't even know what the big deal is with Okada. He's okay. Instead of Okada, it's Okada. He's okay. You know, he's decent, but that's about it. I don't get it. You bring in Mercedes Moné, and I'm like, this chick can't talk. She can't fucking wrestle. She can't fucking act. She can't do anything. So I'm like, why the fuck did you pay her millions of dollars to bring her in? She can't do shit. What is Mercedes Moné going to do for AEW? What is she going to do? What is she going to do? I don't. And yet there are people on the lower card that aren't being paid that could be in there being great wrestlers that they don't fucking use, and it pisses me off. It really does. Because, you know, if you're a popular wrestler on the indie scene and you become best friend with Tony Khan, you get to be main event talent, and that's bullshit to me. It's just you got so many people, why not use them? You own Ring of Honor, promote it, and give them some of your talent you're not using so you can develop, so you can elevate both brands. It'll only help. I agree with that. I totally agree with that. I don't understand that either, man. I don't get it either, because Ring of Honor desperately needs help. Desperately. Ring of Honor is embarrassingly lowered from where their popularity used to be. Embarrassingly. And it's because, like, Tony ain't worried about Ring of Honor. Ring of Honor, that's his, like, that ain't his B show, that's his C show. Like, he's like, whatever, just wrestle. Yeah. Oh, well, we want to do storyline, we'll put it on AEW. I'm like, what the fuck? That's another thing with AEW. Why do they keep putting all these people on AEW that are from Ring of Honor and, you know, New Japan and you know, MLW and GCW? Like, you have 100-person roster and you are bringing in other people from other companies and using them. What the fuck are you doing? What are you doing? It makes absolutely no sense. Ring of Honor is dying. Only way you can watch Ring of Honor is by paying a fee, which I don't want to do, because it may be good wrestling. That's about it. That is about it with Ring of Honor. And maybe they got Athena, so I'll give them that. Athena's there. Athena's great. So they got her, but why else would you want to go pay for Ring of Honor? Why? I don't get it. And they're using guys from GCW. And you got Moxley going over and winning the New Japan title and bringing it to AEW. So what does New Japan do now? They have no world title? Gee, it's so great for professional wrestling that AEW is around, right? So I don't know. I just don't want to support them, man. I don't support AEW. I don't support Tony Khan because they lie, they deceive, their product is trash. It's garbage wrestling. Sometimes we'll get a good match, but most of the time it's no selling, indie style. And I'm not a big fan of that style. I think it's fun, popcorn. Like, to me, the indie style match is a popcorn blockbuster movie. It's fun to watch the explosions. Maybe you get some cool special effects, but by the end of it, you're not going to really remember it too much. Does anybody remember the story from the Transformers movies or the characters or the arcs? No, we just remember that it had a bunch of explosions and it had some cool action scenes, and, you know, it was neat for what it was at the time. It was fun, but we're not going to remember it. Same thing with this. We're not going to remember a bunch of spots with no story. It's fodder. It's filler. It's nothing. It's Fugazi. You know? So while they're making these blockbuster movie type wrestling matches, I'm more interested in seeing the simplistic stuff that WWE does, the storytelling, the characters. That shit is awesome. Why buy Ring of Honor if you're not going to help them? You could trade back and forth and elevate each other. Alternative and wrestling is great. And if these guys learn to work together, it could only help if done. Absolutely. Absolutely. And that's the thing that it kills me that AEW, they do have the potential, they have the ability to do that. The one thing that stops them is Tony Khan. You got Tony Khan. Also, shout out to Panda Express. Their walnut shrimp is great. So I got like a lemonade from them earlier. Just sipping on that today. Not sponsored. Not sponsored. But yeah, I don't get it, man. I don't think I ever will. I will never understand that. I will never understand how AEW is so desperate and so try hard. It's embarrassing. Totally embarrassing. Bumblebee P. Yeah. Okay, I do remember that. That was funny. And I remember like a scene where like one of the Transformers like humps a girl's leg, and the second one, might have been Megan Fox. He like humps her leg. I'm like, what the fuck? That was weird. Yeah, we're gonna have them humping legs and peeing on people. That's Michael Bay for you. His weird humor. I mean, you go back and you watch some Michael Bay movies, you're like, did he really just make that joke? These are kids' movies. Did he really just make that joke? You know? But that's about it for how I feel about AEW, man. I just think it's massively disappointing. Definitely not the potential it could be. Definitely not where it should be. And WWE, while I do love the product right now, they do have things they can work on. They got to fix that mid card. They got to make it more memorable. They got to make it more just seeming more important and making it more urgent to watch the mid card. The women's division needs to be worked on, and I do think the tag team division is also struggling, both men's and women's. So there's definitely things to work on there. Their main event shit, their main card is like great. Like, yeah, the bloodline stuff can get a little bit old sometimes, but for the most part, I'm interested in the main event stuff, the main card. It's just mid card, lower card, tag teams is where they need to start focusing on stuff. The women's division, they got to fix some of that stuff too. But yeah, that's it's got problems, but it's nowhere near as many problems as AEW. I think this is a bot right here. I'm not sure. Hi. It's probably a good thing I'm ending this soon. Transformers 4, they keep making sex jokes about a girl that they keep pointing out in the story is underage. What the fuck? Yeah, I don't remember that at all. Jesus Christ. I didn't even fucking remember that. Jesus. Yeah, Michael Bay, man. Dude's crazy. But anyways, y'all, that's gonna be it for my thoughts on WWE and AEW right now. I'm not gonna get into like a lot of AEW talks in the future, but here and there, if something big happens, I'll cover it and give you guys my quick thoughts. The WrestleChill streams, I want to continue them. I want to make them a thing where it's gonna be hanging out and talking about wrestling for a little while. It's nothing like big plans or scripts or anything, but I was going to keep the wrestling content on this channel, Grief World, but I did decide that I would like to keep it separate. It would match a bit more on its separate channel. So whenever I get that stuff fired up, I'll let you guys know. But anyways, y'all, thank you guys so much for tuning into the stream tonight. Hope you guys enjoyed. I'll be seeing you guys later. And Grief World is out. Later. Peace.